What action the Scottish Government is taking to tackle anti-Semitism?
First Minister.
Well, the Scottish Government, in common, I hope, with everybody across the Chamber, is committed to tackling hate crime and prejudice, and I want to reassure Scotland's Jewish communities that there is no place in Scotland for any form of anti-Semitism or religious hatred. We value our Jewish communities, we value the contribution they make to Scotland, and I think that's a message that should go out strongly from this Chamber. As well as our ambitious programme of work to tackle hate crime and build community cohesion, we've also adopted the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition of anti-Semitism. This sends a strong message that we believe anti-Semitism to be entirely unacceptable in Scotland.
Jamie Greene.
Can I thank the First Minister for that response? But the First Minister will be aware of recent press reporting comments made by Ephraim Borowski, Director of the Scottish Council of Jewish Communities, in this very Parliament. May I quote from him? "Mostly, the Jewish community used to feel that Scotland was a good place to be Jewish, but for many that has reversed. Many Jews actively discuss leaving Scotland because they feel alienated, vulnerable and not at home." Presiding Officer, I hope the First Minister is as worried and saddened by that assertion as these benches are. So can I ask her what guidance has been issued specifically to Police Scotland to address the scourge of anti-Semitism in Scotland? And will she join me in calling for all political parties represented in this Parliament to do everything in their power to make sure that no one in the Jewish community should feel vulnerable or unwelcome in Scotland?
First Minister.
Well, yes, I will encourage all parties to do exactly as Jamie Greene has called for there. In terms of the police, I believe the police have a good relationship with the Jewish community and work very closely with the Jewish community around tackling anti-Semitism and also addressing the concerns of the Jewish community around security. In terms of Ephraim Borowski's comments, I've got huge respect for Ephraim and the work that he does. I've discussed this issue with him personally in the past. I think, and he is more than capable of speaking for himself, but I don't think there was any suggestion that the very legitimate concerns he raised at the weekend were in any way unique to Scotland. I think he was reflecting a feeling of the Jewish community across the whole of the UK, including Scotland, but also reflecting an apparent rise in anti-Semitism, not just across the UK, but further afield. And I think all of us have to be very vigilant about that. And my responsibility is to make sure that that is the case, particularly in Scotland. And as I say, I've had discussions and will continue to have discussions with the Jewish community about exactly that. I made this point when I spoke at the reception in this Parliament earlier this week of the Holocaust Educational Trust. And I will say this again here. The Jewish community is a valuable, vital part of our society in Scotland. And if one member of that community feels unsafe here, then all of us have a duty to respond to that and to do everything possible to change that. And that's a responsibility I take very seriously for the Jewish community and for any other minority community living in our diverse country. And I hope that's something all members will agree with and echo.